Good morning, Western Slope. Happy Monday. I'm Dalen Brazelton. Let's talk about your weather. We're seeing a lot of rain potential pushing into the Grand Valley and the Western Slope as a whole as Tropical Storm Raymond exacerbates some of that moisture into the region. We're seeing some very interesting stats as far as moisture goes on the Western Slope. Fun fact, on Friday, it was the 7th wettest day in Grand Junction's history, and we got some more stats on that in just a sec. But first, let's talk about your morning. We're waking up to 48 degrees in Grand Junction, mid-40s as well for Paonia, Delta, Nucla, Montrose and Glade Park hanging out in those 40s as well, with even Moab not quite hitting the 50s. Meanwhile, on the eastern side of areas, we got Carbondale, Aspen, and Gunnison. Aspen being a little bit warmer, but Gunnison and Carbondale seeing about those freezing temperatures. Gunnison been hanging out in those 20s all morning long. For that classroom forecast, that first bell's ringing to 47 degrees and some cloudy conditions. Things are going to start changing, though, for the afternoon as we're seeing widespread chances for showers and thunderstorms for the region for those after-school activities. Mid-60s expected, and then overnight lows tonight. Not quite getting what we saw last night, as a matter of fact. So enjoy these mid-40s for the morning hours, because as we increase up to the 60s, we're only expected to get back down into the 50s for tonight. So not as much of a temperature difference between the two, but we are seeing chances for showers starting at about 11 a.m. here. For that dog walking forecast, we got Evie hanging out with us this week, and it's going to be a great morning to take your dog out for a walk. I'd recommend hitting it before those showers start to push in. We could be seeing them as early as 10, and then thunderstorm potential after noon. So the earlier the better, but you may want to grab a jacket because 47 degrees and some windy conditions are expected, about 16 miles an hour for your morning hours here at the very least. Over the weekend, we saw a lot of widespread rain over the Western Slope, down near Arizona and New Mexico as well, as we saw that path from the tropical storms push up the Four Corners into the Western Slope here. Fun fact, like we mentioned, on Friday, 1.4 nearly inches of rainfall for Grand Junction, which is the wettest day we've seen in 50 years. Shout out to our Assistant Director Grant as well for this photo back here of Tierra Rado Golf Course. Absolutely beautiful one here. As we're seeing that moisture pushing in today across the Four Corners region, we're seeing a lot of flooding potential for the area here, especially near southern Colorado. So because of that, flood watches have been extended for southern Colorado here up until Wednesday at midnight, so up until Tuesday night here. And then that blinking area in the center, well, that is a flood warning here. The big difference between a flood watch and a flood warning is just the severity and the imminency, if you will, which means that if you're in that area, well, look out and just take some alerts if you are, make sure you got the apps downloaded and everything like that. We're seeing a lot of rain pushing in on that futurecast here. Could be seeing it as early as 9 o'clock for some of the regions, and then pushing in for 10 o'clock as well. And then seeing a lot of that thunderstorm potential developing for the afternoon, I should say. A lot of this happening in the Western Slope, and then as we kind of start to see that dissipate, we're not going to completely rule out the storm potential for, say, Tuesday, but it is decreasing pretty significantly. And then Wednesday, Thursday, sitting at that 20% chance for showers. As we take a look ahead at that Discovery Auto Group 7-day forecast, we're seeing those mid-60s of today turning back into the low 70s, a little bit closer to the averages, and then dropping into the 50s. Overnight lows in the mid-30s for the end of the week. Speaking of the end of the week, take a look at Montrose. 2 degrees above freezing expected for Friday night, and then hanging out in the low 60s for today. Same thing with the chances for showers, 80%, so it's definitely going to feel a lot more like fall for today.